So I am reading a book called Recess at 20 Below, and the author is Cindy Lou Aillaud. And Cindy Lou is from a community in Alaska by the name of Delta Junction. So she's got a hand-drawn map here of the state of Alaska. This is Anchorage, where I live now, and this is Fairbanks, where I went to high school. And down the road here, about 90 miles, is Delta Junction. And they call this section of the state the interior. And the interior gets pretty cold. Cindy Lou has dedicated this book for all the children who opened my eyes to the possibilities in my own backyard, which makes me smile. She begins Recess at 20 below. The cold takes my breath away and makes the inside of my nose stick together. So I tug up my scarf all the way to my eyes. The snow on the ground sparkles like diamonds, and the air is filled with tiny ice crystals that just twinkle out of the sky. Crunch, crunch, crunch. When I walk, it sounds like I'm wading through a bag of potato chips. No chance of sneaking up on anyone in this stuff. And here's a picture of kids going to school. You can see the snow is kind of crunchy. You'd say, well, wait a minute, it's dark out. Why are they going to school at dark? Well, it's because when you go to school in the interior in the wintertime, it's dark. And you can see their faces are all covered with masks. They're wearing snow pants, hats, gloves. They're all bundled up. I live in Alaska, right along the Alaska Highway. Here, she's got the highway here. Winter lasts a long, long time here. It seems like forever, but really, there's only snow on the ground from September until April. But sometimes we get a snowstorm in May or even in August. At our schools, we go out for recess, even when it's 20 degrees below zero. We have to wear lots of clothes when it gets that freezy. And again, you remember the picture with lots of clothes. Getting dressed to go out takes a long time. First, we wiggle and squirm and twist into our thick snow pants. And then we pull on our winter boots. We zip our parkas up as high as the zippers will go because we don't want any cold to get in. Then next come the hats. Some hats cover your whole faces so you only can see our eyes and mouths peeking out. Since we need our fingers to put on all those clothes, our mittens or our gloves, they go on last. Finally, we're ready to go outside and play. But I can hardly move in all my winter gear. I'm as big as a sumo wrestler. As I waddle down the hall, I usually see someone run back in to go to the bathroom. Sure hope they make it. When we get outside, I look for my friends. All we can see is each other's eyes. See, look at her peeking out from between her hat and her face covering, but she's got her eyes poking out. So it helps me to remember what colors my friends are wearing. Samantha reminds me of a giant pickle in her green parka. And Megan, who's all dressed in purple, looks like a jar of grape jelly. Kind of a funny way to remember who your friends are. It's fun to go sledding during recess. Every time it snows, our maintenance man clears the snow from the school parking lot and dumps it right in the middle of the playground. Our sledding hill grows and grows all winter long. After a few months, it seems like Mount McKinley or Mount Denali, the highest mountain in Alaska and North America. We climb up to the top and jump on our sleds. Yippee! Isn't that crazy to think that they take all the snow from the parking lot and they put it in the playground to make that snow mountain higher? I think it's a great idea.
Senator Lisa Murkowski is reading it as part of this National Center for the Book Read Across the States project. And that's just very exciting. And I'm thrilled that the Center for the Book is talking to you and making this happen. It's a great thing for the state and for the book. And
oh, it's such an honor, truly. I feel so grateful and so excited about hearing that news. And it was actually not long after Recess at 20 Below was published that I flew back to Washington, D.C., and I was advocating for physical education in schools. And I happened to be able to stop by Senator Lisa Murkowski's office.
oh.
And when I looked in, she had my book, Recess at 20 Below, on display in her window. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I went in and introduced myself, and we were both so excited to be able to meet each other.
Yeah.
And so she took a picture with me and her together with the book Recess at 20 Below. And she said that she loves reading my book to children in the state of Alaska. So I just am so pleased that she still likes it and has chosen to read it once again. So thank you, Senator Murkowski.
What inspired you to do this book? Was it hanging out on the playground every day with those kids, or how did this come about?
It was a very cold November day. In fact, 20 degrees below zero, that my kindergarten class was outside playing on the playground and running around as only kindergartners can do, while me as the teacher am standing there watching them on the playground and wondering, why is it do I live here? When suddenly in my head popped the idea that, oh my goodness, these awesome Alaskan kids have a story to tell, and maybe I should help them tell it, because in most places of the world, kids don't go outside to play at 20 degrees below zero.
No, most places it doesn't get that cold.
No. And so I started photographing my students playing outside on the playground, and then also started including other students in the school. So I have kindergarten through sixth graders. That's kind of originally it started as a photographic project, but then I started working on a story to go with it. And then the story was just inside of me, and I had to get it out and share it with people. And I didn't even care if it went anywhere. I just had to do it. And so that's, I guess it's my kindergarten students and me feeling sorry for myself that inspired me to write Recess at 20 Below.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love that idea that you're just standing there freezing, and then all of a sudden you get this flash of inspiration. Yeah. Well, and I think the photographs really, make it real for the kids. I mean, if you're living in Florida and you hear about Recess at 20 Below, you think that can't be real, but your photographs do actually bring that reality.
I hope so. I have always felt like a photograph is worth 1,000 words. And so I really do use the photographs to share the story as well. And many people have told me that that's what they find in also the story they really enjoy, but their children like looking at the photographs, even 2-year-olds like looking at the photographs. Yeah. I spent many, many hours at the computer reworking my story. And I had the basic idea, and that was great, but it just wasn't right yet. And it was actually one night, well, actually I'll back up a little bit, because since I always hope for 20 Below, and that's what my story was about, I played outside too. And I got to play with the kids and talk with the kids and ask them in their words, how does it feel to you to be out here playing at 20 below? And of course, I was experiencing it too. And I had little kids who would even write, because kids knew I was working on a story, on a book, and they would write little notes to me and put them under my PE. I was teaching PE at the time, not kindergarten anymore. And they would write little notes and stick them under my PE office door, and which was just lovely. And so it was one night that I thought I had the best story of Recess at 20 Below ever. And my editor contacted me and she said, well, it's getting closer, but you need to work on that a little bit more. And I got off the phone with her and just burst into tears because I'm like, I can't, it's the best it can be. How can I make it any better?
I know that feeling.
I was reading through some of those notes the kids wrote me, and I kind of had a same experience as getting the idea of the whole book, the whole story, in that suddenly it hit me. Oh my gosh, I need to write it like we are experiencing Recess at 20 Below, and the kids are experiencing it, and that is how I need to do it, because and suddenly it worked, and I stayed up until 2 a.m. and at the time I was still teaching school. I stayed up till 2 a.m. because it was coming, and I rewrote it and I sent it in, and my editor, Michelle McCann, was like, yes, this is exactly what I was talking about. And so, you know, we made little changes here and there, but I had it because I wrote it like I was experiencing it, not like it, as one first grader said, my rough draft sounded like a science report. And I suddenly wrote it like I was truly experiencing it. So the advice I would give to young writers or any writer is that if you write the best story ever and you present it to your teacher or an editor or a friend or somebody to read, and they're like, well, it's good, but I think it could work on a little bit more, don't get mad about it or upset. Just go back and think about it. Read through all your notes. Think, sleep on it maybe. And, and it will come. And it's just not there quite yet, but it will be. I had this little story inside and just needed to get it out. And here we are.
Well, so do you think you have another book? Have you thought about that? Or
well, I actually have a story in a book called Today I Made a Difference, and that's a collection of essays from teachers across the nation. And then I co-authored a book called Everybody Plays, How Kids with Visual Impairments Play Sports. And that was a very interesting experience to work with another author on that, and she actually is the creator of Camp Abilities, which is a sports camp for kids with visual impairments. And she saw Recess at 20 Below and loved it and asked me if I would be interested in writing a story about kids that play sports who are visually impaired. And so I spent a few years volunteering at the camps and taking photographs and working on the story. And I ended up donating that book to the American Publishing House for the Blind. And they printed it in large print and Braille, which is pretty cool. So it's not the sort of book that just a child would pick up and have in their locker or backpack, because It's pretty large since it is in Braille and large print, but there are photographs in it as well. And that was really a fun project to do.
Just one more thing about the new edition.
Oh, right.
So it looks like you maybe incorporated some of the questions that you got from kids as you did your national tour. So at the back of the book, there's this wonderful section that answers lots of questions.
Yes, there is that. My publishing company, which is kind of morphed into being Ingram Books and Northwest Books and everything. Anyway, they decided that they wanted to like modernize the book a little bit. And so we started working on that project, and I was involved in it as well. And I thought it might be good to include a little section of like a lot of the questions that I get are similar from kids all across the nation. And so we did, and that was really fun to take some of those questions that kids have asked me. So they're a part of it too, and then be able to include those answers, because I can't get to every school, even though I'd love to.
Well, especially not now. And it looks like it's available as an ebook as well.
It is available as an ebook, yes. And even though the hardcover isn't like printed all the time, you can order, what is it, print on demand?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you, as library or something, could get a hardcover as well as a soft cover.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.